Legend says that this is Michael Bay's final Transformers film. And while he didn't reinvent Transformers on the way out, I will say that he delivered his best entry. Even though he couldn't crack that damn final act. Transformers movies, of course, are infamous for going on way too long. Never ending! I think the most egregious until now is Transformers 2 with that battle in Chicago. Remember? It just would not end. But it was still vaguely entertaining, and I'd say the same thing happens here for the entire last third of the movie. In fact, I left the theater quite sleepy. But the first two-thirds of the movie are so entertaining, and the characters, both human and Transformer alike, so much fun that this is a great summer popcorn movie. And if you're into it, you should go. And a lot of people are into this, which is why Transformers continues to be a billion-dollar franchise. Sure, the audience is shifting overseas, and you can really see that represented in the film. Like, for instance, they're having like big space discussions, and I think for the first time ever in a Hollywood movie, they mostly take place in the, is this a thing? I feel like a horrible American. The European Space Agency. You would think it'd have a more official sounding name. That sounded kind of generic to me. But I knew it wasn't NASA, and I thought that was pretty mind-blowing. But this film, let me just set the stage for you. And the reason I'm doing this is because I think this is how you should set the stage for yourself. I went to the theater. They gave me a free soda and popcorn. It was in a beautiful, revamped IMAX theater, Universal's new City Walk theater. So nice. The projection, the IMAX projection, was crystal clear. There wasn't a speck of dirt on the entire screen. And then that was really made the best use of with amazing, gorgeous visuals from Mr. Michael Bay. And the script was really funny. And it was also, I would say, the easiest to follow Transformer movie yet. Put that in a pin. We will revisit that in a second. But I really want to talk about the VFX because they are amazing. Michael Bay and his team are able to put Mark Wahlberg right in the middle of Transformers fights convincingly. He even hung from a drone, and I'm sure that wasn't Mark Wahlberg, but his digital double was so good that I couldn't tell. Well, maybe I guess my mind knew, but my heart didn't, and I guess that's the point. Also, the Transformers, I think for the first time as well, were easy to follow across the screen. Usually there's just like a floating flotsam and jetsam garbage techno effect, but not this time. I could spot each Transformer, and by the way, I loved the baby dino Transformers. They were so adorable. I mean, nothing screams make me into a toy more. And to buy the toy, I loved them. And every shot, even when it isn't full of visual effects, is just stunning. It's the kind of high-gloss filmmaking that made Michael Bay famous for being an audience favorite in the first place. I was just having such a good time. Also, interestingly, for a movie about robots from space, my favorite stuff was grounded. Like that King Arthur opening. Boy, did that work. I was just absolutely thrilled. And Stanley Tucci as Merlin, he should have his own movie. I also loved Anthony Hopkins here, fully embracing the paycheck gig and chewing scenery like the experienced scenery chewer that he is. If only Robert De Niro could ascend to this level of scenery chewing, maybe it wouldn't be so painful for the rest of us. The movie also just throws character actors at you non-stop, and it's great. And they're all having so much fun. John Turturro, Tony Hale, nice to see him get the upgrade to John Turturro and like Anthony Hopkins status. Jared Carmichael, also very funny, taking over for T.J. Miller. Not a lot for him to do, actually, though. And then Transformers voices. You're like, John Goodman, is that you? Steve Buscemi, thanks for joining the party. That was kind of the atmosphere. And Josh Duhamel, by the way, really has grown into his looks. The Reed Richards gray sideburns work for him. Now, as for the Transformers, we'll get to the rest of the human cast in just a moment. I didn't forget about them. But as for the Transformers, they don't get quite as much attention as they have in the past films, which I actually preferred. I liked the focus on the human characters, but if you're a hardcore Transformers fan, you might feel cheated, particularly if you're looking forward to Nemesis Prime, who has the slimmest of storylines. We'll discuss in the spoiler review, but there's not much to discuss, except for one pivotal moment. which I think could have landed better. The King Arthur stuff landed better than this pivotal moment in the third act. Third act was a mess. But then one Transformer got a lot of screen time, more than anyone else, and I absolutely fell in love with him. I'm talking about Cogman, voiced by none other than Downton Abbey's Mr. Carson, and he was having a great time. The lines they gave him to say, I just couldn't get enough of him. From his hilarious dialogue to his intricate, elegant design to how he moved. He got some C-3PO comparisons, but I thought he was, with all due respect to C-3PO, there's only so much C-3PO can do because he's a practical effect. He's a dude in a suit. But since this was VFX, oh, it was wonderful. It was like Cogsworth and Lumiere rolled into one. It was just so much fun. And he was every inch the gentleman sociopath that he admitted he was. I loved him. Then Mark Wahlberg and Laura Haddock, their roles were meant to be somewhat robotic, as the very good-looking male and female leads. But to both of their credits, and Laura Haddock, by the way, is from Guardians of the Galaxy's Meredith Quill, Peter Quill's mother. She doesn't, you can't recognize her, but she's great. Underused, obviously, in those films, because both she and Mark Wahlberg brought a lot of personality to their roles. And it was all them, and I really appreciated it. Now, for those of you who are Isabela Moner fans, she's not nearly as grating as she was in the trailer, so that was nice. But she doesn't have any reason to really be in the movie, and she's not in much of the movie, to be honest with you, because it's really two movies. Like, her character gets left behind, like maybe I'd say a third in, and she comes back, but never the same. And it really reminded me a lot of a Saturday morning cartoon, and I brought that up recently with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, saying it went full Saturday morning cartoon. But this was like even more so. Like when Optimus Prime was like, okay, we have to go in there with his great Optimus Prime voice, and he's like, we have to get Quintessa's staff. And I was like, wow, this is some Saturday morning stuff. I don't know if I can get this down without some cereal to accompany it, quite frankly. And I wonder how people who aren't into Saturday morning cartoons will feel about this. Even myself, who is a Saturday morning cartoon fan, felt it didn't quite work because they were jumping around so much in a single movie. Saturday morning cartoons do this. They have commercial breaks to help make it a little more palatable. They have multiple episodes, and I can see why they would go to the Saturday morning cartoon structure, why they would gravitate towards that in Hollywood, because they're trying to build cinematic universes, and they're like, oh, same kind of thing. But that storytelling with Saturday morning cartoons is very disjointed. They jump around to different storylines very quickly. Characters come and go. And you can't do that in a movie. You have to maintain the 3-act story structure and character arcs. They have been the building blocks of screenwriting since the beginning of filmmaking for a reason. And I did not see a compelling argument made here to abandon them. So Transformers: The Last Knight was more fun than it has any right to be, or perhaps as much fun as it exactly has to be, because you know what kind of movie this is. So either accept it and have a good time, or if you can't stomach it, if you're like, this isn't for me, then just move along, because it isn't for you. And not every movie has to be for everyone. This is a turn your brain off. Yeah, the last third's not great, but I had so much fun at the first 2/3 that it was worth my time going to the movies. It's a fun summer popcorn movie. See it on IMAX, see it in 3D, see it in the best crystal clear picture you can, and I'm telling you, you will have a fun time. All right, so that's my non-spoiler review of Transformers: The Last Knight. Spoiler review coming. I look forward to continuing the conversation with you down below, but don't spoil it for anyone. Save those comments for the spoiler review, and you can check out some more episodes right now.